if society were set up differently, then we could set something up maybe where women were encouraged not to take that infantilization route. But as it stands right now, they're not only encouraged but also a bit prone to it. And so things like men going their own way and the men's rights movement in the wider sense are threatening to that, and they attack it on an instinctive level almost. They don't really quite know what's wrong with like men going their own way concepts, but they know to attack it because they know that it represents a fundamental threat to their way of life and their sustenance
and their own self-image.
Yeah. It's a big threat. It's a big threat. So the attacks are just going to be dialed up. My biggest fear is that somebody's going to be violent or whatever associated with that is associated with the men's rights movement, and that's how they're going to take it down. That's my biggest fear.
I actually have for a few years now been absolutely convinced it is not an if, it's a when.
Yeah.
One of us is going to get gunned down.
Yeah.
That was an interview that I did, I believe in 2013 with Dean Asmay. It's an excerpt from an interview that I did with him, where I predicted that one of the ways that the men's movement was going to be attacked is, some psychopath was going to go on a shooting spree and kill somebody and commit acts of violence. And I think Dean misunderstood me there, but I know what I was trying to convey. But, one of the ways that the men's movement was going to be attacked is when some idiot decides to go on a shooting spree or something like that. And, of course, with the whole Elliot Rodgers situation, this is exactly what happened. And I want to talk today about conspiracy theory. There's entirely too much conspiracy theory in the men's movement. And I really want to form a pushback and move away from just these ridiculous conspiracy theories, not just that feminists dream up, but that right-wing traditionalists dream up the whole, it was all just feminism, it was all just communism or socialism. And, to be clear, I don't think that communism or socialism is a good thing, right? I don't support it in any way. I'm not communist. My general idea is that if it's possible for the government to not be involved in it, then I think it should not be involved in it. That's how I've always been, politically speaking. It's just that I don't think that every single situation that we deal with as human beings on this planet Earth, on our small blue planet, it can be taken care of sans government. Government, in my opinion, is just a survival strategy. It is a institution that human beings have carefully crafted over thousands of years, and it arose for a reason, and it makes sense if you look through our history. For the natural progression of human civilization to be one in which a nation state, is formed after the development of agriculture specifically. But I want to talk about conspiracy theorists and why they harm our movement. What we're witnessing here in the men's movement, and these conspiracy types, they ruin everything they touch. Their movement on its own can't stand on its own. That's why they have to kind of plagiarize people within the men's movement, MGTOW, so on and so forth. They are movement parasites, these type of people. But what we're witnessing here, specifically with the Elliot Rodgers situation, is I love this term that I believe that cynical cynicism coined, is a type of social inertia typical to both genders, but most dramatically expressed with the female gender, especially when it involves violence against women. And it mimics something that I like to call social pareidolia. Now, pareidolia is the tendency for the human brain to fill in details of an incomplete picture to form a complete picture, no matter how accurate the filled-in gaps actually are. Many of you have seen this famous Martian face picture that was snapped where a natural Martian rock formation bore an uncanny resemblance to a human face. When this picture was taken, what we wanted to see was a human face, and what our brain naturally assumed was human facial features. Now, of course, a more recent NASA photo from a different angle of the same rock formation seen here on the right shows us clearly that there is no human face at all, but just a Martian rock formation no different from any other we would see on the red planet. This pareidolia, unfortunately, is not limited simply to what we see, social inertia has its own form of pareidolia where people fill in the blanks and see whatever they want to see when certain convenient, natural social events arise. And this, my friends, is the genesis of the runaway conspiracy theorist, which is exactly what the reaction, specifically the feminist and female reaction to Elliot Rodgers is. It's a conspiracy theory where all sorts of dishonesty is used to fill in the blanks, and this is the same exact conspiratorial nonsense that some in the manosphere propagate. It was all just feminism or communism or cultural Marxism crowd. Now, before I speak on that, though, let's get back to feminists for a bit. And I want to talk about this ridiculous petition that was posted on whitehouse.gov to classify the men's rights movement as a terrorist organization, which I'm about to read word for word out loud. Because it's just that blatantly dishonest. I mean, you have to read it to believe it. But keep in mind, before I read this, that the difference between what MGTOW talk about and what these other groups talk about when explaining why feminism occurred lies in the way we explain why mass social phenomena occurs. That is a naturally occurring, organic, natural phenomena. But the petition reads, quote, "The men's rights movement is a misogynistic movement that advocates violence against women and girls. Multiple members of the MRM, self-identified men's rights activists, have committed atrocities and mass murders. Mark Lepin killed 17 women on a university campus in the Montreal Massacre. Tom Ball firebombed a courthouse and wrote a manifesto encouraging others to bomb government buildings that is posted on major MRM websites like avoiceformen.com. Elliot Rodger, an active MRA, shot and killed at least 7 young women and injured many other people at random. Rodger is being celebrated as a martyr and hero by the movement, which will likely cause other MRAs to emulate his crimes." Now, this petition, of course, is chock full of lies. This Montreal Massacre happened 2.5 decades ago. What could entities such as Men Going Their Own Way or MRAs or A Voice for Men possibly have had to do with this? Absolutely nothing. If Tom Ball did in fact advocate for the firebombing of courthouses, to my knowledge, he self-immolated, which is very different from firebombing a courthouse. He self-immolated on the steps of the courthouse. But even if he did, I still know of not a single men's rights organization that advocates for violence of any sort. And of course, Elliot Rodger made exactly zero references to men's rights in his manifesto or his videos, and openly fantasized about killing every single man on planet Earth so that he would have all the women to himself. And so to the disgusting family value morons who tried to make a link recently between Elliot Rodgers and MGTOW, clearly, with all our talk about helping men avoid suicide or, giving them access to domestic violence shelters, or pointing out that men receive less funding for prostate cancer, clearly we are looking to preserve male life and male quality of life, which makes us categorically opposed to the type of gendercide that Elliot Rodgers espoused. But the purpose of these conspiracy theorists, feminist or otherwise, they're multifaceted. These people can only truly ingest argumentation via their team. It's feminist or right-wing traditionalist, whatever. The purpose of this is to filter any argument being made through a tribalistic filter, and then and only then respond to it. It's human nature, I suppose. We look for patterns in everything. But this is probably, the way these people do it is probably a subconscious deflectionary tactic. It sets up the condition of exchange in a setting where already going into it, the person proposing the argument, his argument can be discredited, not based off the merit of the argument alone, but whether or not the conspiracy theorist can use the argument to show that the person making the argument isn't genuinely part of the tribe the conspiracy theorist force-teamed him into. So then it doesn't become about the argument being made. It's you're wrong because you're a misogynist, you're wrong because you're a leftist, you're wrong because you're a communist. And a perfect example of this is when myself and Stardust introduced or reintroduced, because it was already floating around the internet somewhere, the then obscure concept of Briefolt's law into the MGTOW lexicology. And frankly, whether or not you subscribe to Briefolt's law is irrelevant, because the counter-argument in this case to Briefolt's law became simply, Briefolt was a communist. And it must be wrong because he's a communist, right? If Briefolt said the sky is blue, well, you better damn well disagree. And this is how these people operate. They operate off of trigger words. It's communism, eugenics, it's misogyny, it's patriarchy, it's Marxism. Let's take, for example, one of the conspiracy theorists' favorite targets, and this is generally of the right-wing variety, one of their favorite targets, one of their favorite conspiracies to indulge in. And this relates to the never-ending procession of technological development. And the meme that they espouse is the technology is dissolving human interaction meme. You know, it's designed specifically to lull humanity into a perpetual state of virtual catatonia. You know, our iPhones, our Xboxes, our televisions, they're gradually eroding our abilities to read human body language. And, you know, and we don't know our neighbors anymore. You know, and kids don't go to the playground anymore. And surely this is a result of a massive conspiracy theory to destroy the family. It's eugenics. You know, surely this was all designed to make us ripe for the picking of the elites. And my proof, or their proof, I should say, you know, Aldous Huxley wrote a book that portrayed a technocracy, 50 years ago? You know, where the plebeians couldn't dream of overthrowing an oppressive state because there were too many pleasurable distractions, too much soma for them to even consider it. You know, their proof? Fucking Gattaca. I don't know, you know? And surely, you must see the parallels between Gattaca and Aldous Huxley and our smartphones and blah, 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 and the RFI fucking D chip is 5 years away. Whatever. You know? I mean, they just run away with this shit. And I imagine to them it all sounds very exciting. You know, it sounds exciting and romantic, and who wouldn't want to be one of the chosen ones, privy to the nefarious scheme of the elites, you know, the grand scheme that the elites of our world have subjected us to. Or this is a result of what I've mentioned time and time again in response to these pea-brain conspiracies dreamt up by these children. And that is that a natural change occurred in the way human nature is expressed as a result of in this case, a palm-sized innovation that allows us to communicate instantly with anyone up to and including people on the other side of the planet. No, you know, this wouldn't change how human beings communicate, would it? You know, this wouldn't change how human relationships, including those of how the human family interacts. Nope, it was all done on purpose to attack free humanity or whatever. Except, here's a picture of a group of people on a train circa 1950, sitting one right after another, completely engrossed in their newspapers, looking exactly the same way we do with our smartphones and our iPods and our text messaging, exactly the same way. Did the elites dream up the printing press for the express purposes of, I don't know, getting people to stop talking to each other too? Did the elites do that too? And this is how easy it is to debunk this rubbish. I mean, this is what I mean when I say that feminism is a manifestation of technological changes rendering the reproductive contract that existed for thousands of years redundant. This is what I mean when I say that the Industrial Revolution changed how men and women relate to each other dramatically and forever. Even though the human nature responsible for how men and women behave both after and preceding feminism has stayed exactly the same. And so mythologies such as this cultural Marxism conspiracy theory, which are born out of the same hysteria and ignorance that tells us iPhones were invented by the Rockefellers to destroy the family unit, these mythologies exist to give comfort to weak-minded, underdeveloped proles that need the comfort of neat, tidy little enemies and the simple diagnosis they come along with. These people think the existence of communists or cultural Marxists anywhere, ever, even the ones that existed decades ago, necessarily translates into an overarching omnipresent communist conspiracy against the United States or liberty or free humanity or whatever. Just like feminists think that the preponderance of male CEOs indicates a sustained, multi-generational plot to keep women out of positions of power. It's the same type of mentality. These children live in the world of incorruptible goodness and incomprehensible evil and nothing in between that just got there somehow. There's no buffer zones, there's no gray areas. They're always looking to pin the evil that resides within us, within human beings. You know, the evil, the same evil that causes us in any sufficiently cataclysmic societal collapse to become a bunch of nasty, thieving, raping, cannibalizing, murdering apes. They look to project that evil onto an undefinable shadowy entity, and this shadow entity is always attacking one pillar of goodness at one time or another. You know, they're attacking the family, the children, the woman, the country, the morals, the value, the culture, the heritage, the race, the environment, the endangered fucking sage grouse. But in reality, the only ones attacking any of these things are us. Even though, in this case, attacking is the wrong word. Because what we're doing here with MGTOW is we're simply doing away with the unnecessary anachronisms that traditionalism has brought about. You see, these people, what they do is they like to make conspiracies to foretell change that makes us uncomfortable and squeamish. Environmentalists, they say that there's an agenda to destroy the earth, Mother Earth, right? Therefore, every time Monsanto does something, and I mean anything, when a Monsanto executive sneezes the wrong way, it's touted as evidence to bolster that, Monsanto or the oil industry or whoever is taking that action specifically to destroy the environment, even when it's not. And if you try to tell them that this specific action that Monsanto took isn't actually nefarious, then you're somehow part of the conspiracy now. You see, anybody that doesn't see every single action Monsanto has ever taken or will take as indicative of a nefarious plot to destroy the earth is part of the conspiracy, you see? And this is where I see the commonality between feminists and their patriarchy theory and these defeat the left types and their commie under every nook and cranny waiting to destroy America bullshit. You see, I don't want our movement, and specifically what our movement can and can't do, to be decided by what feminism did or ever has done. This is where MGTOW differentiates itself from these two other groups. You see, most of us know that feminism, in and of itself, isn't Satan personified or evil incarnate, but something that arose naturally due to changing conditions that humanity brought about. Most of the actual legwork that sustains feminism is just the male instinct to protect and pander to women, and the female instinct to demand that men protect and pander to them. Without this, feminists could never have gained the political clout that they enjoy today, and frankly, if we were to disappear every single leftist politician on planet Earth, you would see a power vacuum ensue in which a glut of new politicians would come in and take advantage of that power vacuum and pander to women just like before. When we affix a consciousness to feminism, when we call it evil or stupid, we not only misunderstand feminism, but we also seriously hamper our ability to resist it effectively. You see, I want to be able to broach the topic of male domestic violence shelters in our discussions as MGTOW and not care if some feminists also pursued domestic violence shelters for women. You see, I don't care what feminists did. I don't ask permission from some anti-feminist checklist to decide what men should or shouldn't do. I judge the idea on its own merits. But instead, what we're doing, or at least what some of us are doing, is saying that all feminism is evil, all feminism is stupid, and thus everything that feminists have ever done ever, even if it wasn't a bad thing, becomes evil or stupid and denies us the chance to explore whether or not we should do it. I want nothing to do with these conspiracy idiots. I'm sick of hearing it, man. I'm sick of hearing how everything was Karl Marx. I've used the example before that a shitload of planning goes into launching a Mars rover into orbit, but it can't get there. It's a massive, massive, massive waste of time to try to propel one of these Mars rovers off of fuel from our planet to the red planet. We let gravity and Newtonian laws of motion get it there. All we do is get it up into orbit. And so even if there was some plot or whatever to implement cultural Marxism and bring about whatever it is, the current flavor, conspiracy flavor of the month is, they still have to rely on the way men and women naturally see each other and the way men and women naturally behave, because that's what's going to do the legwork. That's what's going to get the rover from the Earth to the red planet. And that is what's going to sustain feminism and continues to sustain feminism. That's all I got to say for now. More to come. Thanks for listening.